The seventh thing was the importance of the work ethic. To model that for your children, defining moments in child rearing, the work ethic. You know, if you asked my daughter, she would never say, well, Daddy's a couch potato, Daddy's lazy, Daddy has nothing to do. She would never. Our home, inside and out, was always filled with work activity, always. And we were always doing something, remodeling, rebuilding, outside, inside, garden, always something, always work activity, keeping up the place, always. And that was the environment she grew up in. You know, Proverbs 22 and verse 15 says, foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but the rod of correction shall drive it far from him. You know, when I think back on my personal life, what kept me out of a lot of foolishness was hard work. You know, my first motorcycle, I was 12 years old. My father said, can you make the payment? You can work around the house. You can clean the house, clean outside, rake the leaves. But that was the question that he had for me. Can you make the payment? My first car at 16 was a Stingray Corvette. And my father, you know, my parents were pretty cool. They didn't say, oh, you don't want that old sports car. They said, sure. You want a Corvette? Can you make the payments? You don't make the payments, that car goes back to the bank. And believe me, you know, I wanted that car and made the payments. Even had some money to put some fuel in it every now and then. Yeah. But during, you know, as a teenager in my early 20s, you know, when I would, and I'm still like this today, when I come home, I am physically and mentally exhausted. You know, and I think about some of the riots that are going on, and I'm thinking, you know, the problem is these people have nothing to do. I mean, when I got home, I didn't have time to even think about going out and getting into trouble. Yeah, hard work, there is nothing more important than just hard mental and physical work, where you physically also are worn out at the end of the day, and you can't think of getting into trouble. Idle hands is the devil's workshop. Yeah, that's right. The last thing, defining moment I want to mention here in child rearing is simply the subject of love. You know, in a way, when I think back on it, our daughter now has moved away from home, but the child rearing, that 18-year commitment, that 18-year sentence, it was the easiest thing that we ever did because of love. I mean, how hard is it to love your children? But I tell you what I found. A lot of parents think they are loving their children when in reality, they're just loving themselves, and they have never learned how to put self aside, self on the side burner, and put their children first. They haven't learned how to do that. Now I want to leave you with something that Jesus said, and I think it's an important point here. I'm going to change the words around a little bit to make a point. Luke 9 and verse 24. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake, the same shall save it. Now I think there's an important principle here in child rearing. So I'm going to rephrase this. For whosoever shall save his life shall rear godless children. Notice that. For whosoever will save, in other words, it's all about my life. Well, this person is going to rear godless children. But whosoever will lose his life for his children's sake shall rear godly children. You know, it's all about putting yourself on the side burner, putting your children first, realizing they are top priority, and the goal and the commitment that we're bringing a child into the world, and we're going to make sure this child is a contribution to society, not a detriment, not someone that makes their parents look like a fool because of their activity they're involved in. No, a child that can contribute and build up America, build up a godly society, contribute to society. That's what you're after. I'm David Freeman, and that's what's really in your Bible.